Welcome to Market Buzz. I'm Greg Schnell, the Canadian technician and host of the Market Buzz. Each show, we do a deep dive into different industries using weekly charts to see what is happening on a long timeline. Please follow me on Twitter at Schnell Investor, and you can also find me on StockCharts.com as well as GregSchnell.com with some blog articles for you to peruse. So this week, I wanted to cover off the big picture, worldly insights. We're at a month end, end of May. World's rolling out vaccines, and I think it's important to just keep the global situation in context. Usually, if the U.S. market is going to break down, it would follow other markets into a weaker situation. So that's kind of the premise that I use when I think about the world markets is you're not going to find the strongest economy in the world and the strongest stock market in the world breaking down first. So we want to go and check and see what's going on with the other ones. So in doing so, how are they doing as their vaccines start to roll out? Now, America got well ahead of almost every other country in terms of vaccine rollouts. Israel and the UK did pretty good catching or going out at the same time. Now the vaccines are broadening out. We're almost 2 billion vaccines in the world. So that's pretty high dosage. And what do the economies look like around the world? So anyway, that's what we're going to cover off today. Hopefully there's some insights there for you. And I've also made a link here for the video that I did to the members of GregSchnell.com. If you can type in this code in here, that would work. I'll also have it in the description. But the idea being, just go have a look. Why I think oil prices are going higher is covered off in there. And there's some background information to try and what we call intermarket analysis, when you take the different areas of the market and use them to kind of come together to a picture. And when we do that, that tends to give us a little more structure or a little more support for a specific market thesis. So if you have any interest in the work at gregschnell.com, feel free to head over to the website. You can go to gregschnell.com/sports, and I call it the fans in the stands playoff sale. We finally have people watching sports live, so that's kind of fun. Canada's starting to get that going as well. So anyway, you can save $363 if you go to gregschnell.com/sports, and it's an annual membership at $497, which is a little over $40 a month. So hopefully that's affordable and can help you out with some of the ideas out there. Jumping into the indexes, when we look at the global indexes, I don't go through I'll call it all the indexes. I focus on kind of the primary indexes around the world, and that structure helps me just keep abreast what's going on in Asia, South America, Europe, and as you roll through it, hopefully you'll get a feel for it today, what seems to be working and what's not working. I think there's some nice looking charts out there. So let's jump in. So first of all, these are the monthly charts. And what you can see here is Germany closed at all-time highs right up in the top right-hand corner of the chart. There was a 2018 high and a 2020 high that they were trying to get through a few months ago. In early January, they took off and broke out to the upside. So that was pretty meaningful. One of the things I like to keep track of is my PPO momentum trend, and this is breaking out to higher highs. So this was our prior high. Higher highs, we're breaking a down sloping trend. So to me, the market momentum in Germany is picking up. So the DAX looks pretty good, and you can see typically the RSI has been stuck under the 65 level, and now it looks like it's going to head up to 70, and that's just a big bull market when you can get up there. We're at 66.1 today. Okay, I'll show the weekly markets when it matters, but for the most part, let's just stay on the monthly charts. And perhaps on this French one, I'll show you some other ideas of things that I like to look for. Hopefully that can help you out with some of your chart analysis. So France has a population roughly 60 million people. Germany 60 million, Spain 60 million, Italy 60 million, UK 60 million. Yes, plus or minus those numbers, but to give you an idea, there's approximately 300 million people between those five countries. So at least let's pay attention and just see what's going on there. What we see in France is last month in April they broke out to new all-time highs. Very bullish, not all-time highs, but many years, like I think it's 20-year highs. And then in May it followed on. So that looks pretty impressive. Remember how in Germany I mentioned it was breaking the downtrend in momentum? Well, we had that same downtrend line here, just slightly under, I would say, connecting 2015, 18, the highs of 2020, and now breaking that line. And now we also have the bigger trend here, which is, I'll call it a 15-year momentum line. And we're breaking out to the top side in price, and it looks like momentum's also going to start roaring up to a higher level than before. So what does that mean for us? That is a pretty important statement. It basically says the sideways range that France has been in for 20 years is starting to break. And I think that's a really meaningful issue when you think of the bigger countries in Europe. I just showed Germany at all-time highs, but France hasn't been able to really break out for 20 years. And so here we're pushing up to new 20-year highs, and we're on our way to go test the 2,000 highs up around 7,000. To me, it looks very, very strong. If we draw a horizontal line right at the 6,500 level, and the easiest, fastest way to do that is just to type in 6,500, and you can pick your line type, or you can open the annotation tool and do it that way. But for me, what you see here is we're right at kind of the zone of support resistance inside this topping process that happened in the middle of the year 2000. I think we blow right through it. But you can see this chart is breaking out. And again, as I mentioned, this 5-year downtrend in momentum we had has now broken, and we're popping to the upside. I think, like Germany, it's going to follow through. Just going to skip over the weekly. Okay, so here's the Dutch market, the Amsterdam exchange. And the point being on this one, it broke out in roughly January from this 5-year downtrend and really took off to the upside. And when we open this one to the 25-year picture, what are we going to see? Well, you can see we still have a top to get through in 2000, but we're pretty much blowing through it right now. For this one, I'll use the annotation tool to draw our horizontal line. I'm going to take this. Maybe I'll just get rid of that now. And what we want to show when we do this is we're at prior highs, and we always want to pay attention. Prior highs can be an important stalling place. But if we notice this line in here, the market came up, stalled, and spent a couple of years trying to break out. Late 2019, started to get going. COVID hit us, set us back again, and we pulled back. Now we can go and do a couple of things on this chart. One, you can see that the uptrend that was started from the 09 lows, whether you use this line, or if we set it up across these three lows, you get the idea. We have a big uptrend. Coronavirus was an interruption to the trend, but in general, the general economic trend coming off the 09 financial crisis has been up. And again, coronavirus slowed it down, and now we've popped to the upside. On Holland, we're trying to break out through this big major topping process. We've made a new, last month and this month, we've made higher highs, and we've also taken out the prior highs from the year 2000. That looks pretty bullish to me, and it's really, when you're hitting new highs, you're not in a bear market. I love that phrase, because sometimes you feel like, oh, this market's ready to go down. If you're hitting new highs, you're not in a bear market. So this is Sweden, and one of the interesting parts about Sweden is it is in the EU economically, but it kept its Swedish krona. So it can trade a little bit different. And when I look on a daily level, kind of what Sweden is doing in their stock exchange tends to be a little bit more of an indicator for the rest of Europe. And so this chart's been pushing higher for a while here. You can see we've blown through the 2000 highs. In May, we actually made a higher close but a lower high. I still think you're climbing. Every now and then you're going to have a couple of months that are setting you back. Not a big deal. The RSI is way up over 70. To me, it looks like Europe wants to keep going north. So that chart is really, really strong. When we look at Great Britain, one of the things we see here is the RSI had a big downtrend from 2017. We're popping above. We're moving above 50, and typically when we look over here from 2009, for the most part it's bounced off 40, and what we call that is a bull market. So when the RSI finds support at the 40 level, and I find it works better on the weekly and the monthly charts than the daily, but it can also happen on the daily charts for shorter term trading. But when you're staying above 40, you're in a bull market. So we pulled down here and we got to 30. That would mark us as a new bear market. What would happen typically in a normal bear market is you can't get back above 65. So you trade in a lower range from 30 to 60 instead of from 40 to 70. And just using those two guideposts can help us out. But what do we see down here on so RSI is the internal price strength. The PPO is a longer term picture using 12-month, 26-month, and a 9-month signal line. When you look at these changes, you're seeing this downtrend breaking out here. This is just from the 2018 highs, and I showed it on Germany and I showed it on France. We're popping through to the upside here. We still have the big major trend. We're a long way away from that 2006 trend line, the 15-year one. But this looks ready to break out to me, and it's going to continue to go up. When we get up into this, call it 330 level, that's really going to be interesting because we have a lot of trading that's taken place at those levels, and it'll be interesting to see if people start to lock in profits and just go to cash or something to protect the gains they've made back after having such a big loss. I don't think that'll happen just because of the backdrop of the globe. Now here's Spain, and what we see on Spain, again, the RSI is pushing above 50, so that looks pretty bullish. And then what we see on this big downtrend coming off the 07 highs is we're getting close to breaking through that. We have the uptrend that was going on 2016, 17, 18, COVID interruption. It took a little longer for Spain to get through it. But that 3-year downtrend is starting to break, and we're getting very close to approaching the big downtrend over the last 15 years. I think that's pretty exciting. Now, obviously it's getting going, but we're still below zero. So that leaves us with I'll call it a cloud, because normally when the PPO stays below zero, you've got problems. The market's not going to be very positive. So we want to see that obviously push higher, but I think some of the leadership from France and Germany kind of illustrates that's probably going to happen. Now here is Greece, and Greece is interesting. They had the big debt problems, I think we all know. Anyway, I started to draw on head and shoulders top, and you can see in April we pushed above there, and then in May we just got stuck here. Not a big deal, but their tourism economy is starting to open, so it wouldn't surprise me if all of a sudden Greece can start to move to new highs above this 900 level, push up and get up into this 1000 level. The PPO is back above zero, so we have some hope here that things are starting to improve. At this point, the COVID interruption of the uptrend is kind of still there. If we just use this 520, 520, maybe this 744 is kind of in that same range. But the idea being that COVID was an interruption to the overall trend, and now we're getting back on the trend we were on before. Here's Italy. And one of the big things about Italy is they just have a new commander-in-chief there. The prime minister is now Mario Draghi, who you might remember from the EU financial realm. He was head of the central bank there. And so what we see is this is breaking out to new highs. So this 192.80 level, if we just put a horizontal line on here. and solid and blue. And when we do that, what we see is this is our highest close in many, many years in Italy. So there again, we've got another market breaking out to new highs. The month of February 2020, we were pushing higher and then we closed lower on the back of COVID, but now we're actually taking out all of those prior highs. So I think that's pretty important. And we see the PPO momentum line starting to break out here. This just looks bullish. So we want to be very aware of how strong things are worldwide. And I think when we looked around Europe, things are pretty spectacular. From a Shanghai composite, what we've got is this big horizontal support and resistance line, and what we'd like to see is a breakout. Well, in the month of May, we actually pushed up nice and high. You can see the scale is crazy on this chart, down from 750 to 6250, all in the last 20 years. It's, I guess, 1997, so 25 years. This is a remarkable scale. Anyway, the Shanghai is trying to bounce off this support level and take out the prior highs from 2021. It looks to me like we're probably going to go there this month. And in doing so, you're at new 5-year highs. Lots of price action. The RSI looks like it's going to push above this 65 level onto the higher levels. And our PPO trend line is right in play right now. So we'd like to see that breakout too, suggesting we have a new level of momentum and not trapped underneath the previous downtrend. For the Hong Kong market, lots of things going on there around the democracy situation, different levels of freedom being allowed. And so the market has to deal with all of that and take that into account. Well, what we've got here is this big horizontal resistance line. And we've been trading around it for the whole year. Every month we've come back and touched this line. I think it's pretty important. What I want to see here is we've broken the 3-year downtrend, which was nice. Now what we need to do is, even if we just consolidate sideways at this 2% momentum, that's still okay. We just don't want to start to see it roll over as we just get back above zero. So if the Shanghai is going to break out, and again, if we started to go above these 2019, 20, and most of the 2021 highs, so not so much this peak way up here, but just this 30,000 level, you're trading above most of the consolidation, and it looks to me like we could start to move to new higher highs. Here's the Nikkei. So the Japanese stock market, RSI is tagging 70, so very bullish. So far for the last 6 months, we've just been bull flagging. So we kind of ran up, and now we've got this little pennant flag. What we'd like to see now is a follow through on that. And when we go back and look, you see it kind of run up, make these flags, and then start to take off. And then finally, in this case, took a little while longer to get on a run. These are monthly charts, so it's not going to just happen in one day, but this looks pretty bullish. And in general, I kind of like the way the Nikkei market is setting up. On the weekly chart here, we have a little flag building, as I mentioned, but we're just trying to test above the 20-week moving average. We want to get above that downtrend line. And as soon as that happens, this chart probably looks pretty good. Our full stochastic is starting to turn up, so that's also helpful. And we want to see our PPO on the weekly stay above zero. So any sort of turning up process here would be quite welcome. So here is India, and the one thing I've only got a weekly chart here, so let's just skip this out to monthly. I need to change a couple of things here as we go. So we've got a 40-month moving average, isn't really too helpful. Let's just go with a 10-month and get rid of this one. Maybe I'll just make it invisible. My mistake. Just go to opacity and set it to 0. And then with this is the 10-month moving average. But the point I want to make is, even with all of the issues around COVID, this chart closed at new all-time highs in May. Looks very, very bullish. And what we'd like to see now is, as this chart goes, can it break through the February highs? I think it does. That's a pretty important level. And when we unwind this chart, just take it out 20 years, India has the best demographics in the world. This is a big trend. So after this monster flag pattern up here while the vaccines are trying to get rolled out there. If this chart breaks out again, I think you just want to be on board. India's got so many good demographics about it. Okay, we'll just sneak back. So the weekly chart here, you can see this downtrend was in play, and now all of a sudden we're starting to push to higher highs. It just looks bullish. Our RSI staying above 50, very, very bullish. Nothing not to like there. Getting into South Korea, this chart's been running up beautifully. Nothing more to say. The PPO's at a new 10-year high. How can we not like that? RSI is pushing up really, really strong. So Korea looks great. Australia is one of the more impressive ones this month. What happened at the end of May was we broke out to new all-time highs. So in April, we broke out to a new high. We tested lower, and we turned around and fired up and finished pretty much right on the highs. We're going to get into some commodity countries as a group here, but notice this PPO trend line here. I want to see this momentum lift above that level, kind of like we had back in 03 through 07. That was a big run, and so far we have a lot of setups that are similar to that with corn, oil, gold, silver, just many different commodities, soybean, coffee. Lots of things are starting to make a run up here, all in commodity country. And from that perspective, you're seeing this commodity chart break out to new all-time highs. That's just bullish. It's one of the reasons that I want to be bullish on commodities. When I go look at Russia, very commodity dependent country, what we see here is we're testing 10-year highs or 9-year highs. This was our highest close going all the way back. I think it actually goes back to 2012, so 9 years. You're breaking out to new 9-year closing highs. That's pretty big. And our PPO still bouncing off zero, but it wouldn't take much to get above the previous high. And that would take us back to 7-year highs or 8-year highs in momentum. Just very bullish. We've broken the downtrend. We're now starting to break out to the uptrend. This COVID situation is a problem. We briefly broke the uptrend just before COVID. COVID hit, call it an interruption, came down, tested the main support line, and is taking back off to the upside. I think these commodities are going to go on a run. Looking in on the Toronto Stock Exchange, so Canada, we're clearly breaking out of any sort of previous area we were in. Look at the momentum line telling us it's a whole new world out here. RSI shooting up above 70. We're hitting 20,000 on the stock exchange for the first time ever. So things are really, really moving. Again, Canada is primarily a commodity, lots of commodities. There's more IT coming in all the time, but a lot of gold mining, precious metals, industrial metals, oil, gas, diamonds, lots of things based on the landmass of Canada. So here's Mexico. And what we see on Mexico is we're breaking through this 50,000 level. We closed at 50806. We'll just go put our horizontal line on here. 50806. Add it solid. We want the color to be blue. And when we do that, what we see here looking through, we had one close higher than this level. So again, here's another commodity country breaking out. Looks like to me it's ready to pop to the upside, and we're probably going to blow it out to the top side like the rest of the commodity countries. All of that leading to a big picture that suggests the globe is doing very, very well. Here's Brazil for our last, I'll call it foreign country, and it broke to new closing highs on the end of the month. So we're sitting up above the early January 2021 highs, and we're taking off. So we tried to break out back then, we pulled back, and now we're on our way again. And I think as countries get their vaccines and start to rolling out and their economies start to open, we're going to see a continued push to the upside, especially in the commodity side of things as things become more in demand. So when we look in on the S&P 500, this chart continues to just climb beautifully. It was 800, it's up to 4,200. That's just a stellar move from the 667 lows back here in 09, and 4,200, that is 7x in 12 13 years or something. So really a stunning level of change. But when you see that chart breaking out to new all-time highs back here, it ran up. Then it started to break out to new all-time highs. Got here, started to break out, and then we had the COVID interruption, and now it's continued its trend. Having the whole world breaking out to new all-time highs, we're seeing these PPO trend lines being broken worldwide, still looks like a very bullish backdrop. And then when we go to the NASDAQ, this chart's been accelerating. It's almost parabolic the way it's moved up. So it's struggling a little bit at this really high PPO level. And what we see here is we're at 15%. The chart is doing fine. We closed slightly under April last month. And this month we're just jogging sideways so far. But the NASDAQ doesn't have a lot of commodities on it. It has a few, but not a lot. But you can see back in 1997 through 99, our PPO stayed at this very high level, call it 15%. And we went years like that while the market ground higher. Now, there were still months that closed lower than prior months, but the uptrend was still intact. So with the whole globe in a great perspective or a great situation here, I expect more from the U.S. markets, especially as we head into the July earnings. And hopefully through the charts I've presented, you're able to see that. We've got a couple of minutes left to spend. Again, the video that I mentioned at the beginning, you're welcome to go see it. And it's about an hour and 15 minutes, 10 minutes. But what it talks about mostly is the commodity setup just continues to push harder and harder. Every time you think there's going to be a pullback, it's minimal and it keeps going. So here's the big picture on crude oil. I know I've been pounding this bandwagon, pounding this drum for a while. But this chart is very close to breaking out. So we were over $68 now, taking out that interim high. And then as this chart tries to go through, our next area of interest is up in this 76.90. Let's call it a lighthouse that we can see from afar. I would think we're probably going to take that 10% move and get up and test that prior high. With that, we're seeing big moves in the oils, and I posted a Canadian Technician article about that. I posted a Chart Watchers article about the nice setup here. When you look at the oil and gas, so this is just today, these charts are running. When you look at them over the last month, these are Canadian, but the US charts are doing the same thing. 40% increase is 25. This is in 30 days, right? 1 month. 20 trading days, this thing's up 2% almost every day. So these are pretty heady gains, and I still think there's lots more to come because of the global thrust in all of those commodity countries lifting off like they did in 03 and 04. And Martin Pring had made some comments back in 03, and somebody mailed those comments to me just a week ago. And I actually called up Martin Pring, and we had a nice visit as we always do. But one of the things I said to Martin, do you just see the secular strength like you did back in 03? And he said, Greg, anytime you get these markets and they just refuse to drop, even when the charts are indicating some weakness, and they keep just turning around and pushing higher, hardly giving you a chance to get back in, that's just a big secular bull, and you just pretty much have to ignore the pullback signals until something major really starts to crack the charts. So from my perspective, it's all very bullish, and what we want to do here is just try and stay on the right side of the trade. I know some people want to get back into the tech trade. I would just say don't fight what's working, and a lot of things that are working are the reunification or the re-engagement of the world. So try and take that. Thanks for taking time to join me on Market Buzz. Market Buzz airs Wednesday at 10:30 a.m. Eastern. You can also see the recordings on StockCharts TV, StockCharts on Demand, or on gregschnell.com. Head over to the website if there's something I could help you with in terms of my website. Thanks. Bye-bye.
Hey guys, Dave Keller here with StockCharts.com. Thanks so much for watching our video. If you enjoyed it, and we hope you did, hit the like button right below. Also, we have so much new content every day. Consider subscribing to the channel. Just hit the subscribe button in the video or right below. Thanks for watching. Stay safe. Have a fantastic day.